Right, Frank, here we are back in England. How are you?
I'm good. A little bit of a cold last week. Got a little bit worried, but I'm all okay now, thank you.
Yes, I've been for a few tubs of the old hand sanitizer.
I've not stopped and I've been bathing in it.
How are you after the big Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight? I know you were up and seeing him a couple of weeks ago. Or was it last week?
Yeah, I think I'm on cloud 7 at the moment. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted for him. And I did pop up and see him last week. We went out with him in Paris and had a bite to eat, and it was it was nice to see him and talk to him about other things than boxing. But he was in a good place, which is really important. And obviously back with his family, his kids. He hadn't seen him for quite a few months because he was in training camp, and he seemed in good spirits.
Because that's important this time, isn't it? I think so much, certainly with his comeback, so much was made of how he won the belts off Klitschko and immediately kind of spiralled into his kind of dark place. This time, because we know that's a thing that happens, people are kind of looking at him more.
Well, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes, which won't go into at the moment. They've got some legal stuff going on, but that added to it in a way. So this time round, everything's gone great for him. He had a great result, yet another great result for Tyson Fury. Back as not that I felt he went away, but back as a top heavyweight on the planet, and he's just looking forward to getting out again.
How important is it that he takes a bit of time off though? Because in the build-up to that Wilder fight, he obviously had his 2 big fights in Vegas and had to make himself a star in the States, and then did the WWE stuff and the book tour and everything. Has he got a couple of months now where he can just disappear into some shady corner of Morecambe and not be seen for a bit?
Well, in an ideal world, that's what you'd like it to be. But I think Tyson's the type of guy that needs to be busy, feels he needs to be busy. It's funny, when I was up there, he was making arrangements to going to do his run on the night. So he looks physically, he looks unbelievable. He's in such good condition, and you've got to take your hat off to him for that. And he's also, as I say, mentally he seemed well. He is well, but he just needs to. I think he's one of those characters. I'm a bit like that. If you haven't got something happening, then you've got time to think about things that you probably don't want to be thinking about. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think he's got a busy schedule coming up. Lots of things happening in his life, and he just wants to. But I think it's important for him to spend time with his family, with his kids, having not seen them for a while.
Mm. You say he's got things coming up. Deontay Wilder has activated his release clause. That apparently is already sort of semi-set in stone for July 18th. Do you see that actually going ahead? Because there's been a bit of talk about having to activate it to get the step-aside money and the Joshua fight, and the fact that Fury had his. The first fight, most of the boxing world thought he won. Then the second time he won very convincingly. Now the third one is maybe a more difficult one to justify. Do you think that fight is very likely to happen?
Well, he has invoked it. The date's not set yet, but he has invoked it, and I think there's some talks to go on, even though he has done that, and there needs to be some talks about it. But if it's got to be, it's got to be. And that's the contract that everybody entered into, and you've got to honour the contract. If anything else was to happen, that's depending on a lot of factors. So I think what you've got to focus on at the moment is the reality. As to the result of the fight, I think Tyson's got his number. Unless Deontay pulls something special out the bag, I don't know. A couple of excuses I've heard why he's lost the fight were pretty stupid. The costume he wore and this stupid thing about the glove I was seeing. I mean, it's just it's like conspiracy theorists. But the bottom line is Tyson beat him. He beat him on merit. The best man won on the night, and I think Tyson has his number, as I think he's got the number of every heavyweight out there at the moment.
Yeah, what do you make of that excuse? Have you ever heard anything like that? That must be right up there in the top sort of 3 or 4 excuses you've heard.
Well, he obviously had. I'm sure he tried the costume on a few times and done all these things. I just think about soldiers going into battle with 8 stone of equipment on their back, running up hills, crawling through mud with rifles and God knows what, and bullets whizzing over their heads. Don't get no complaints out of them.
Do you think the excuse as well is added? I think whenever, particularly these days, whenever a fighter loses, all of a sudden overnight they're rubbish, and I think that's something that Wilder's definitely been the target of. People saying he was never any good anyway. He hasn't become bad.
Let me tell you something. How many people going into that fight, boxing people, I'm talking about, you know, journalists and so forth. How many of them picked Tyson to beat him? Hardly any. Most of them were picking Wilder to Deontay to knock Tyson out. He's not changed from the fighter he was. It's about Tyson being the fighter he is. And it's about Tyson commanding the fight. You know, he's using his tactical brain, using all the attributes he's got, such as his height, his reach, and his punch power. That everybody, you know, for one, I don't know why anybody doesn't think he's got any punch power. He stopped 20 odd of his opponents. They didn't just, you know, he didn't hit with pillowcases, as has been said. You know, he like look what he'd done with Derek Chisora. He destroyed him. You know, Tyson is a good quality operator. He's got a great boxing brain. As I said when we made the fight, you know, my opinion was at the time, to beat this fella, you've got to go and stand with him, you've got to push him on his back foot, because he doesn't fight too good going backwards, because he can't set himself to let those bombs go. And that's what you've got to do, and that's what Tyson did. You know, Tyson, you know, I said that, you know, and I know quite a few journalists who I do respect saying, you must be mad. Why would he go toe-to-toe with a big puncher? Well, you know, he didn't even allow him to go toe-to-toe. He just commanded the fight and just backed him up from the beginning. Like I've said on a few interviews, the first round of the fight was like the 13th round of the last fight by the time he got back on top and had him all over the place. Tyson's is a very astute boxer, got an amazing boxing brain. And you know, I'll bang on about his plans A, B, C and D. Well, he's used plans A and plan B up to his yet against Deontay Wilder. He's not got onto C and D yet. He's just a very accomplished boxer, and I think he's too smart for all these guys.
And as far as the third fight goes, I mean, nothing really changed. Tyson will be an overwhelming favourite this time, but nothing really changes on the Wilder end. He's still got the punch, hasn't he? So it's still.
Well, of course, he has. Look, you know, one punch can change the whole dynamic of a fight. We've seen that. That can happen. But you've got to be able to, you know, and he got a couple of punches off, by the way. He did catch Tyson a couple of times in the first round. He caught him a couple of right hands, but Tyson took them.
Where does that rank in all the times you've been out to Vegas and all the events you've seen? Not just the performance, which was more or less punch perfect, but the event and the size of it.
I've got to go back to when the fight was made and what everybody, the majority of, as I say, all the press all said about it, saying that he would get beat. Two fighters at the top of their game, you know, elite level fighters. This is not like, you know, the former champion, the old guy passing the baton to the new kid on the block. These guys were at the same level, you know, were on paper at a similar level. For me, it's the best performance of a British fighter that I've seen in my time in boxing. The way he went about the business, the way he commanded the fight, the way he ended the fight, all the way through. It's without a doubt the best performance. And I've seen some great performances over the years, but he beat a guy who was the hardest puncher in heavyweight in the last 30 odd years, and some say it has ever been. He destroyed him.
And it does leave the obvious question, the one that I think for, God, what, 5, 6, 7 years we've all been waiting for. It feels closer than ever, the Fury-Joshua fight now, doesn't it? At least it feels as though it could be a year or two away. It's
got to happen, and it's got to happen this year. Not a year or two away. It's got to happen this year. You know, we've always been up front with everything. We told everybody, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder have contractual commitments. The loser has the right to invoke the rematch. That's what's happened. Even though he's not you know, it's not a fighter we were involved with. You know, I said that he's got to fight Pulev. That's what they've announced. I'm not spouting off and saying all these things that happen or there's a deal done or whatever. You know, I'm just telling you what the facts are. And the facts are, to get that fight on, everybody involved in that fight has got to sit round a table and get it hammered out. For us, as representing Tyson, to go back to him, present it to him to see if he wants to do it or not. Because at the end of the day, from our side, it's going to be up to Tyson. It's not my decision, it's not Bob Arum's decision, it's Tyson's decision.
He has said in a couple of interviews, he says, well, I've got 3 fights left. This was before the Wilder fight. He said, I've got Wilder again, and then I want Joshua, and then done. So it sounds like he wants it.
Well, because he was talking from his contractual commitment as Wilder, you know, and that's where we are at the moment. So, as I say, unless something dramatically changes, that's what it'll be. And provided that Pulev doesn't go and knock out Joshua or stop Joshua, because, you know, I feel that there's, you know, you make Joshua a favourite, but in his last few fights, he's been caught in all those fights. And anybody fighting him now, having seen that first Ruiz fight, would feel that they know what they need to do to win.
It seems that Joshua is talking more about this. I think it's fair to say that in a lot of the fights that Joshua have had, Tyson's name wasn't really spoken. They were looking for Wilder, but they weren't talking about Tyson Fury and all that. That may be the Sky BT thing and everything like that, but
no, it wasn't.
Now it seems like they want
No,
it.
it wasn't that. No, you know, the promoters, all of them thought that Wilder was going to win. They all had it in their head. You know, the fact of the matter, they've got to talk about Tyson, because Tyson is the #1 heavyweight. Everybody else is in the slipstream. Lineal champion, beat the second longest, the guy with the second longest reign as a heavyweight in Klitschko in his backyard, gone out to the States, got robbed in the first fight against Wilder and comprehensively destroyed him in the second fight. The best heavyweight of his generation, never lost a fight, has never lost a fight. He's the #1. Everybody else is in his slipstream. That's where they are.
And give us a timescale. How close? So you think this is going to happen within a year? Are you optimistic that this fight will happen?
Yeah, of course, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic as long as everybody keeps winning and getting through their obligations. In an ideal world, you want to get rid of those, but it is what it is, and that's the way forward. But as I say, the only way it's going to get done is for people to sit down, and I want to sit down to make it happen. Sit down with Freddie Cunningham, who represents AJ, his promoters, whatever it takes to sit down, we'll sit down and work a deal out.
And it will be like an unprecedented event. Like it will be probably one of the biggest events in British sporting history and world sporting history.
Well,
really.
for me, I mean, I'm a promoter, and people say I'm not going to over-egg it and so forth, but I genuinely think those two getting it on together will be the biggest sporting event this country's seen since England winning the World Cup. Because when did you ever have two British guys holding belts? And there's never been, the 4 belts have never been on the line before. And it's two Brits, huge fight. It's a mega sporting event. It's not a fight, it's a sporting event, a mega sporting event.
And where would you like to see it held?
I'd like to see it be held in the UK. Of course I'd like to see that, but it's going to go on wherever the money is. The same as, you know, Muhammad Ali when he fought George Foreman. They went where the money was. To Zaire, when the Florida and Manila, they went to the Philippines. They went where the money is, and that's what it is. And that's what sportsmen do. They've got very short careers, you know, and it's no different than a football players like Gareth Bale went off to play for Real Madrid. He didn't stay in the UK or in England, UK or Wales for that matter. You know, Ramsey went off to Italy to play over there. You know, all the big soccer stars, Beckhams, all of them, they all disappear over abroad to capitalise on their abilities, the earning power of their abilities, and that's what both these guys do. But of course, I'd like it in the UK. Who wouldn't want to see it here?
Well, two big heavyweights clashing in the UK. Seamless transition there. So clashing in the UK, April 11th. Dubois versus Joyce. The hype's building quite nicely for that one, and I think people are actually very excited for it, aren't they? Well,
I am. It's, you know, again, we put two guys together to make a fight happen, like we did with Tyson, with Deontay. We put these two, I think, who are the next tier of heavyweights coming through. The winner of this fight will be, I think, in a mandatory position by the end of the year. They'll be ranked #1 in a couple of the organisations, so it's a very crucial fight for both of them. It's probably be a career-defining fight at this stage of the game, and I think it's going to be a cracker. It's again, two guys got great knockout ratios on their record. They're both over 90% of knockouts, and both undefeated as pros. So I think we're going to see something a little bit special.
And there's a
excuse me.
There's a degree of fearlessness as well, isn't there? But you know, Dubois being so young in his career, taking this huge fight, and Joyce, relatively, obviously he had the amateur career, but it's still relatively early in his professional career to take a sort of all or nothing fight, isn't it?
Well, it's for both of them. That's exactly what it is. You know, as you say, Joe's had tremendous experience as an amateur. You know, silver, gold medalist, fought in world championships, European championships, etc. Daniel only had 7 senior bouts as an amateur. Turned pro very young. but he's come along really well. He's 14-0 now, and I think Joe's about 11, isn't he? 10 or 11-0, but they're both undefeated. And this is what the game's all about. It's not the end of the world for the loser. If they get beat, they get beat. That happens. And if what I feel both of them have got about them, the loser will easily come again. You know, I've done it very early in their careers with James DeGale and George Groves, similar situation. And George won the fight, but they both went on to fight for world titles and both won world titles. So it's not the end of the world for them.
Do you see this one as being a genuine 50-50?
Yeah, I can see that on paper.
On paper?
On paper, yeah.
But what does that mean, Frank?
Well, on paper, there's an argument for both of them. I mean, I look at it. Obviously, you know, Sam Jones and I have had differences over it. He fancies his man to win the fight. I fancy Daniel to win the fight, but one of us will be wrong. That's for sure.
Have you enjoyed the verbal sparring with Sam Jones?
I like Sam. I think he does a fantastic job for his man. Does a great job for him, and we promote obviously Joe. We promote Daniel. So you try to be impartial, but I've got to say you're asking me a question. I'm telling you what I think.
Yeah, and like you said, Sam does his job with Joe. He's an interesting character because he's got a few fighters now. He's got Lerone Richards as well, who's fought on a few of your cards. Do you see quite a big future for Sam in terms of the game?
Well, look, you know, he's a young man, and he's certainly, as of yet, got himself into a position where he's signing some of these guys, and obviously, you know, have a belief in him to do that. So we'll see. Time tells of everything, you know. It's the time factor. But I think he's I like him, and I think he's got a lot about him, and I hope he's successful with some of his fighters.
But just one fight down the line. So also on the card, Anthony Yarde and Lyndon Arthur announced the other day. That's an exciting fight for Yarde, isn't it? Obviously coming off the back of the Kovalev fight and another big British fight.
It's a great fight. You know, what is he now? Is he 16-0? I think Lyndon now.
Yeah.
So he's got a good knockout ratio, as has Anthony. They're both bangers. I think it's going to be really, really exciting. It's going to, you know, and they're both world ranked. Both Lyndon's ranked by the WBO as well. So they're both ranked. And as far as the WBO is concerned, they've called for these two eliminators, two semi-finals for the winners to fight each other. And I think the winner of their fight will wind up being the mandatory down the road.
Yeah. And so just explain the situation that happened with Yarde and the fight in Spain. I know that's something to do with you can't fight an eliminator coming off the back of a loss or something, was it?
Well, that's part. What he had a problem with, there's a bit of he had a hand injury. That's why he's not fought for a while, and he wanted to test it out. So just an under the radar workout, really. That's all it was.
Yeah. And was how recently did the Arthur fight come about?
Probably it's been up in the air for probably about 2 months or so, but it's sort of last week gained a lot of momentum, and we got it. You know, we got it done.
Huge opportunity for Lyndon Arthur as well.
Yeah. Well, you think, you know, Anthony showed he deserves to be up there world class. He was 10 seconds away from becoming the world champion. And hopefully he's learnt from that fight. So it's going to be a cracker of a fight. And for Lyndon, he's got a world ranking, but to be in the ring with Anthony, you've got a yardstick to see where he is, whether he's world class or not.
And that Kovalev fight, like you say, 10 seconds away from being world champion. You said afterwards that there had to be some hard and honest conversations. Did those all happen? And is everything?
Yeah, we've had a good chat, all of us, and we know, we're all on it. I think it was down to inexperience on Anthony's part. Because remember, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, why is he not fighting this guy, not fighting that guy?" And it used to annoy me. And I constantly had that thing. He had no amateur experience. Was it 11 fights as an amateur? That's no experience. You look at like Lyndon Arthur's experience. He's had huge experience as an amateur. But I felt the time was right for the Kovalev fight. I really did fancy him to beat Kovalev, and he nearly pulled it off. And I think with the experience, and had he done in that 8th round, it was the 8th, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The 8th round. If he'd done it in the 8th round, done that in the 2nd or 3rd, I don't think Kovalev would have been able to stand the pressure.
In a perfect world, do you think you would have had the Lyndon Arthur fight first, and then just for the sort of experience level?
Yeah, it doesn't matter either way, because at the end of the day, boxing's about timing. You look at matches and you think, is this the right time to do it? Sometimes, I like to think I get it right quite a few times, but I really did feel Kovalev was there to be taken, and it was what it was.
So let's talk about the May 2nd card now. You were up there last week in Glasgow. It was announced up in Glasgow last week. I saw you had your cold. Josh Taylor, exciting to have him on one of your cards, isn't it? Especially coming off the back of that Super Series win.
Well, he looked tremendous, didn't he, last year? And he had a really, really, really good year for him, and he's established himself as being one of the best out there. And we're delighted to work with him up, and putting the show on up in Scotland. And it's gone well. We had a great response ticket-wise already for it. This guy, he's fighting from Thailand, Kong Pong. Is Kong Pong?
Kong Thong, I think.
Kong Pong, yeah. Well, he's the mandatory, so it's going to be a good fight for him.
And do you think this is a possible future of a few cards with Josh Taylor on that you'll be running?
I hope so. We'll see what happens, see how it develops. But I'm pleased with doing this one, and hopefully we will be doing some more.
I've heard him talk a lot about doing one at Edinburgh Castle. What are the logistics of being able to do that?
Well, I put Joe Kawasaki into Cardiff Castle many years ago. We set a show up there. It was Carl Frampton's ambition to fight at Windsor Park. We made that happen. It was Josh Warrington's ambition to fight at Leeds Stadium. We made that happen. I've got no problem. We make it happen. This is what we do here. We make things happen.
And his trainer, Ben Davison, obviously you know well from working with Tyson and Billy Joe when he was still with you. He's obviously got a Billy Joe situation coming up on May the 2nd. I believe he's not actually said explicitly, but I think if the Billy Joe fight happens with Canelo, it might be Ben training him up until a couple of weeks before and then Jimmy Tibbs. Do you see that being an issue, or just one of those sort of unfortunate things that have to iron out?
That's the business we're in. I mean, it is what it is, and they'll have to work that out between them. But, Jimmy Tibbs is no slouch, is he? He's a very good trainer. He's got years and years of experience, and I'm sure, if that's how it pans out, that Josh will be in good hands.
Also on that card, Nathan Gorman looks like he'll be making a return. It will have been, I think, 11 months since his last fight. Wow. A rough year for Nathan, to be fair. The Dubois fight aside, he had health issues with a kid, and then obviously the week of the fight, his daughter was born. Yeah. The timings weren't perfect, but is it good to see him back in the fold again?
Oh yeah, of course. He's a very talented guy. That fight against him and Daniel, it was like I say, you're going to get a winner and a loser, and Nathan's a quality operator, and I want him to get back in the swing, and obviously he was unfortunate he couldn't fight for various reasons you just mentioned, but he's back on now. I want to get him moving and then get him into some meaningful fights in the autumn.
Yeah, how far do you think he is away from being sort of back at top level? Because he has got to probably have a couple of
fights.
Yeah,
couple of fights, then he'll be there, no doubt about it. He's very competent.
Mm-hmm. And you got Sonny Edwards on the card as well. Sonny Edwards is doing his best to make a name for himself, isn't he? He's making
a name for himself. He's a lovely guy. I mean, I love him. I do. And I like, he's got he's so knowledgeable as well about boxing. He's a good judge, and it's a pleasure promoting him. So he's on the card, as you say, and I'm looking forward to seeing him out again. And I want to get him into a big fight this year, a real big fight this year, title fight.
Because it's nice to have someone at that weight that's outspoken and popular as well, because it's a weight that I think it's fair to say is probably not in Britain. We don't look down the weight so much, but it'd be good to have.
You get so many exciting fights though at that weight. I mean, some real competitive matches, and and Sonny, as you say, he's got such a personality. It deserves to happen for him. So it's my job to make sure that it does happen.
A quick word as well, I've got to mention before, Liam Williams, when's the next time we're going to see him out? Because he's been on a tear for about a year and a half.
WBO have advised us, and we're in negotiations at the moment, for him to fight Andrade.
And that sounds like something might happen fairly soon.
Well, it'll have to happen. We're in negotiations. The fight's got to take place within the next, I think it's 90 to 120 days, so he's good to go.
That's really exciting as well, because
he can win that. Let me tell you something. He can beat Andrade. I know he can. He can beat Andrade. That was a phenomenal performance he had last time out. I mean, that guy was number one. He wasn't fancied, Liam, and he absolutely took him apart. It was a really, really good quality performance by him.
Why has Liam gone under the radar so much? He obviously had his losses to Liam Smith, which I think take maybe a few eyes off you because, you know, people think, like we've mentioned earlier in this interview, sometimes a loss in boxing is more important than a loss in any other sport. But it's almost as though the last year when he's been on a tear, he's been under the radar a bit, and now he's, like you say, in with a very good chance of winning a world title in a huge division.
He is, and it's done him you know, sometimes you lose and you learn. It's what you learn from, and how you come back. And you know, he's with a new trainer. Well, he's been with his trainer for a little while now, but you know, he left Gary and he went off to be trained by Dominic Ingalls. So they seem to have got a good rapport going between the two of them, and they've gelled. And he just looks like a different guy altogether to me. Maybe the weight suits him more, but whatever happens, whatever it is, it ain't broke, so we ain't going to try and fix it. It's a good combination, and it's working well. And he's got himself, as I say, back in the position I promised he'd get himself into, and that's to fight for the title, and that will happen.
And in the press conference before the Daniel Dubois card in December, he made you promise him with a handshake that should he win his fight, he'd be top of the card, and it sounds like it's going to happen.
Oh, yes, handshake's a deal.
And if the title fight all goes well, a big homecoming to Wales.
Oh, big show with him. Yeah, he's a good fighter. He's a young man. He's not an old guy.
He's like 27, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got plenty in the tank.
Yeah. And speaking of homecomings, there's talk with Cole Frampton and the Jamel Herring fight happening in Belfast. Is there any more sort of information on that?
It will take place on June 13th in Belfast. We're just sorting out the venue at the moment, but that will definitely happen on the 13th of June.
And so that's 100%?
100%.
Perfect. And how do you feel that's going to go? Because this is a huge fight for Cole.
Well, look, it'd be the first time an Irishman's fought for 3 different weights, or to try and win it. And I think he's got an excellent opportunity and chance of being the first one to do that. So, you know, we're all funking for that to happen for him, and I want to, you know, and it's very important for us to get it on. So we've done that. And you know, Cole's a great boxer. You know, he's really done well in this game, and I think he really does fancy this job against Herring. So get all those home fans behind him, and he can come away with a prize.
It's always great having a Belfast Fight Week as well. They're one of our favourites to cover, and they are. Yeah. There is something special about Frampton fighting in Belfast, isn't
there is. It's an atmosphere, isn't it? It's a fantastic atmosphere. I mean, I can forget his last one was there with the rain and everything. It didn't bother anybody, did it? But you know, I'm looking forward to it, and as I say, he's out on June the 13th.
Are there any other cards coming up anytime soon? So you're saying there's talk of the Andrade-Williams fight. We don't know when that will be, but is there any over here that are happening soon?
We've got a show coming up which we'll do, I think it's the 18th of July, which we'll do up in the Northwest, and we'll be announcing the details of that in due course.
And that will be a kind of, you know, one for the younger, smaller fighters, is that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right then.
And then some big stuff come up in the autumn.
Perfect. So any hints?
Let's hope it's a big one with our man, with a big man.
Okay, well, I'll hold you to it.
All right. Handshake.
All right, Frank, lovely for your time. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure as always, you know that.